Hello and welcome to Over the Table. I'm Taylor Felicity and I have scoured the internet, but mostly Reddit, for stories about TTRPGs for us to provide our unsolicited opinions, advice, and commentary. Today I am here with Rue and Grant to talk about everyone's favorite kind of D&D player, the Edgelord. Yes, thank you. Perfect timing. Thanks, Mila. I was speaking of Mila canonically first in chat. Of course, I have to say that. And having said that, I'm going to throw it over to my two guests for them to introduce themselves. Rue, tell us about who you are, what kind of games you like, what your experience is with TTRPG, all that good stuff.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rue. My pronouns are she, her. My experience with TTRPGs, so I guess the most unique thing is that I have never played D&D, and as I told Taylor in the pre-chat, I never will. You'll never catch me at the D&D table.
Perfect.
Unless it's Brennan Lee Mulligan asking me on Dimension 20, then I lose all my values immediately.
You know what?
You heard it here first. Rue can be bought.
It can be.
Not even really bought, just with influence.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But yeah, I got into TTRPGs through actual plays, through listening to, if folks know One Shot Podcast, that was kind of my avenue in. And then got to have like a little full circle moment and got to be on the show several years later. But yeah, I play a lot of indie TTRPGs. Very familiar with PBTA, Powered by the Apocalypse. Then a few other smaller systems. I'm vaguely familiar with Blades. I do understand D&D playing, though. I do.
What?
I'm letting chat know my secrets. I can speak the language.
It's like when you live in the country for enough time and you can kind of
Yeah.
understand what they're saying to you now, even if you can't speak it.
I'm an expat to D&D land.
Oh my god. I feel like you have such main character energy with TTRPG where it's like you've never played D&D and you have a vendetta against it. And you started listening to a podcast and then we're on that podcast. Which is like kind of every podcast I listen to. That's my dream.
Rue, are you sure you're not in an isekai right now? Blink if you're in an isekai.
I'm trying
Amazing.
to power level my way through TTRPGs, but I'm too overpowered.
This stream is gonna self-destruct because you're just too powerful for it. Incredible. Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
Yeah, one last, just a couple last things. I've never GM'd before, so I really don't have that experience or thought process. I've had the desire every once in a while, but I'm like, I can barely come up with stuff for my own character. I cannot come up with a whole world and people. Yeah. I struggle with names. Well, we're going to be like talking to that guy for every single NPC we run into. And I was going to say another thing, and I've told, I also design games and write, and also recently have been editing. I edited A Land Once Magic, and then I have a game coming out with possible worlds at some point called Apocalypse Canaries, which is about being a scout through a post-apocalyptic world that you play while you're on a walk, which is turning into my MO for games accidentally.
Walking.
Yeah. Playing while walking.
Nice. It's a niche. I don't know very many other people. Maybe one other game that could be that. So that's pretty cool. Grant, what about you? Tell us about yourself.
Hi. About me, I'm 5'11". I have blue eyes. Hi, I'm Grant. I am the titular game master over at Game Master Monday. You may know me as the one-shot guy or the hell guy, the person who can't seem to stop making games about rabbits and the devil. I have a small history with Dungeons and Dragons. It is what introduced me to the hobby, but since then I have ran, and I did the numbers on this the other day because someone else asked me, about 80 different systems at this point, by virtue of doing the show. So, we do a new one shot with a new cast in a new system every episode over at Game Master Monday. On the podcast, we do live streams where guest GMs run the mini series of their dreams. So, Rue, open invitation
To run D&D?
if anything.
Oh my god,
That'd be funny. Just completely break the whole onus of the show by having Rue run a system they vocally hate. And I do Castaway. I do the what is it when you do it twice a year? Semi-annual? The semi-annual charity live stream using the Castaway system by Afterthought Committee. That's based on Survivor, but you can die. So I primarily run games. I occasionally play them. Most of my context is through the actual play medium. I've done very few home games because I'm always doing this. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, perfect. I will really quickly mention people in chat. If you have not watched Over the Table before, you're not familiar, there's a pinned post in chat right now that explains this as well. But if you want to chime in and let us know what you think, you can, if enough people type boo within a certain amount of time, it'll automatically trigger a boo sound effect that the cast guests can hear. If you type like yay, cheer, clap, like those types of things in chat within a certain amount of time, if enough different people do it, it'll trigger a sound effect, applause sound effect. If you have channel points, which is the free kind of currency that you get on Twitch from just watching this stream, you can also just trigger those sound effects on your own. So if you don't want to wait for other people to get on board, you can use channel points to boo or cheer. You can also do a red flag alert, so if there's something that happens in a Reddit story and you're like, oh, that's a red flag, you can trigger a redeem that will look like this, to be like, the red flag, I think this is a red flag. If you are a subscriber, meaning you pay money to me on Twitch every month, you can just type red flag in chat, and do it for free. So you don't have to use channel points for that as a thank you for subscribing. And also, Grant, thank you for following.
I guess I was only following from the GMM account and not my personal one, so I corrected that.
Yeah. Usually I don't, if somebody's on the stream, I don't call out that they followed, but I saw it, and then, because Grant is at the end.
This seems cool, I'll follow.
Yeah. Yeah, actually.
Now that I've been here for about 10 minutes, I get the vibe.
You know what? Fair. So that's all the channel type interaction things that you can do. So with that, I am going to start talking about some Edgelords, and a couple of these are real doozies. I will read if there are like content warnings. A couple of these stories I think do merit them, but not this first one. This first one is just kind of a bummer, but not necessarily meriting a warning.
Starting off strong.
Yeah. So this is from r/RPG Horror Stories, which is my favorite subreddit. And the title of this one is, I think a player used real trauma to hijack my campaign, and I don't know if I even want to DM anymore. I don't know how to explain this properly. I haven't run a session in months, and I keep thinking maybe I'm overreacting, but every time I try to plan something, I just get stuck, like completely shut down. So I had this homebrew campaign, pretty simple setup. 3 players I trust and 1 new guy, Dave, who a friend brought in. I didn't know him, but whatever, always happy to bring new people in. He said he was super into roleplay, deep characters, emotional arcs. Cool, sounded like a good fit. His character was this warlock whose wife died in a fire that was somehow tied to his patron. The whole backstory was about how he lost everything, and now he's basically running on pain and guilt and revenge. Intense, but I've run emotional arcs before, so I figured I'd find a way to balance it. First session, he rarely talked. Everyone else was joking around and building group chemistry, and Dave's character just sat there. When someone tried to talk to him, he goes, "I don't speak to people who still have hope," or something like that. Everyone kind of laughed, but it killed the mood a bit. It just kept going from there. Like, every single time people tried to joke around or connect or even just do a normal scene, Dave would throw in something super heavy. Stuff like, he stares at the fire, thinking of the screams. Yeah, that red flag for sure. Or, the world ended for me a long time ago. I'm not exaggerating. It was constant. And the worst part is he wouldn't interact with the others. He'd just say stuff like that out loud and go quiet again. I started feeling like I didn't know how to run the game anymore. Nobody said anything directly, but everyone started pulling back. The energy just changed. People stopped doing voices or joking around or even making choices, like they were waiting to see if Dave was going to do his pain monologue again. I messaged him and tried to gently say that the tone was a little off from the rest of the group, and maybe we could find ways to connect his character more. He told me the character was based on real grief, and that playing him was part of processing something. He said it helped him. And after that, I felt I couldn't say anything. Like, if I pushed back at all, I was being cruel or insensitive. And then I did the session where everyone got a vision based on their backstory. Everyone was on board with it. When it got to Dave's character, I said something like, you see your wife standing in the ruins. I used the exact setting and details he'd written in his backstory. I didn't add anything graphic. I thought I was being respectful, and he just froze. Didn't say anything for like a minute, then he goes, this is disgusting. You know this is real for me, and just leaves the call. I was sitting there with my heart in my throat. I felt like I'd done something horrible, but I didn't know how. He gave me that backstory. I literally used what he wrote. I didn't add anything dramatic or twist it, but now it felt like I'd stepped on something huge and invisible. I ended the session early. Nobody really said anything. It was just this heavy silence. One of the players said, I don't even know if we're allowed to play anymore. And it stuck with me. I shut the campaign down the next day, said I needed a break. Everyone understood. Someone messaged me and said they'd been feeling anxious for weeks and didn't know how to say anything. And now I can't even start a new game. I've tried. I've written outlines, drawn maps, made NPCs, but then I remember that feeling of everything going cold. I start wondering what kind of backstory someone's going to hand me and whether it's safe to even touch it, or if I'm going to accidentally hurt someone again, or if someone's going to turn the game into something I don't even recognize and I won't know how to stop it without feeling like the bad guy. I just wanted to tell stories with my friends. Now I feel like I can't trust myself to run anything at all.
Fun.
Yikes.
I'll be okay. So I have like a two-pronged reaction to this whole thing because, like, on one end, bro, you don't know these guys. Don't throw your real trauma at strangers. That's
Yeah.
odd. I can't imagine any therapist be like, hey, just join a random D&D campaign and just like really lay it on thick. You know,
just everything that you've been talking to me about. Talk with your
burdens
character
to a stranger. Yeah, for sure. So like there's definitely an onus there on the player. I mean that's really massive character bleed, and if you're making like a whole table uncomfortable or you're like not choosing to interact, I don't know, it feels like you're just not playing a game and purposefully making your problems other people's problems.
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of feel for Dave a little bit though, because like so here's the deal. If I'm a GM, right, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna do a scene, we do flashbacks from your backstory, and I don't know the extent to what this guy explained the deal as, but I would probably check in with each person and be like, FYI, this is the thing from the thing you sent me I'm planning on using. Is that chill? And then going from there, because at the very least, Dave has been willing to say, hey, I'm putting real shit in my thing, you know.
Yeah.
So if I knew that, I'd probably be like, hey man, when you say real shit, how far down does that go for you?
Are you a warlock? Did your patron burn your wife?
Have you made a patronage with a disastrous being that I should be aware of?
Is magic real? You have to tell me.
Yeah. Do you have a dead wife? You know, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this could, just as easily be some guy who wandered in, doesn't understand team dynamics, and deliberately harshed the mood and then ruined everyone's time. And it can also be like a brief oversight from a GM who was desperately clawing at anything to get this guy involved and just happened to pull the wrong pin on the wrong grenade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. That like this answer to the solution, I get what the GM was trying to do, but like yeah, in hindsight with the way that they were playing, the idea of just kind of dropping like, hey, I'm gonna take all this. You said that this is real and traumatic, and so it's in the game now.
Yeah.
Is maybe not the greatest
A slight misstep.
answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can see where you're both coming from with that, though. I think the reason why, for me, I don't even know if it's that much of a misstep from the GM is it sounds like, because it said what they put in the Reddit post was you see your wife standing in the wreckage, which is a little different from you see your wife's dead body. So
Yeah,
that's very fair. And it does prompt the question, hey man, what part of that is real for you? Out of curiosity, like what's happening, Dave?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are we circling around here, Dave?
Don't put something in your backstory that you're gonna freak out if it's included. You know, like, I understand people work through things in TTRPGs. There's stuff that, like, maybe I would want to include in a TTRPG, but in certain ways I wouldn't want to explore it like that. But I don't know, if you're like, my life is over ever since my wife died, and the only thing you talk about is that, it's probably gonna come up.
That's what really like strikes at it for me, because I'm like, hey, the tragic warlock backstory is like fantasy 102, right? It's like, you know, one of the default settings for playing a fantasy character. My whole family be dead, and there's a whole town in ruins somewhere behind me, and like to have that be your backstory, I'm gonna harp on that and harp on grief, sure. But another part of the healing process of grief is reconnecting with people and doing healing. So maybe if after a few weeks you've noticed that your actions have bummed everyone out, and your main response to, hey man, have you tried participating is no. I'm going through something. I don't know. Maybe don't do that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough that the GM also tried, because usually the thing for this is like talk to the player, but like they did talk to the player, and the player said, "This is real for me. Not taking any further questions."
Yeah, that's very much so. Like, you can't critique me because I have a mental illness, and it's like I can and I will.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to like deliberate on like what about this went so wrong for Dave? Like, was it like he's like, oh no, other people got to say that
my wife was dead.
Yeah, like I've lost control. And like I'm like, what did they want to have happen about that? Like, was the people being uncomfortable the result? Like, they were like, yeah, I'm just gonna be fun ending, and what are you gonna do about it?
There are certainly players who want to like push the envelope so far to see like, what can I do to have narrative control over what's happening without like doing it in a blatant kind of way. So like it kind of rings like that to me. I guess if I was a GM, I'd probably reach out and be like, what's your end goal, my dude? And like, like with this character, what are you wanting to get out of it? How do you see the end of your arc going? How can I help you get there? And if their answer was like, no, I just want to do this, I'd be like, I don't know if this is the campaign for you, my dude, because we're not on that road.
Maybe get a journal.
Have you bought a cat?
Talk to your cat about this. Yeah, I think it's tough. It can be really tough as a GM to, if there's somebody that someone wants to explore in their story, to say, I know it's important to you. I know you really want to do this. It's a no from me. Like, respectfully, I am not comfortable with this. And that can
you gotta
be
get
tough.
on the same page. Because I'm okay with a player using real life experiences, or heck, even sparring with the GM a little bit with like the canon of the world. We did a series on GMM called Hell Whalers, where we had one character who my main goal was like, I gotta freak this guy out somehow, and they were determined to just volley it back at me. So like I threw the horrors at them, and they'd be like, check this out. I'm gonna freak out the horrors, which is like a cool little relationship to have, because you both are aware of what you're doing, and you're both trying to like challenge each other to see how much further you can go with it. And it isn't derailing everything because you're working along with it. So there's a way to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not like a naysayer or a. You get the idea. There's a way to like
antagonistic to the group.
Yeah.
But
there's
not
a way to do positive antagonism that like unites the party and drives you forward, as opposed to like sitting in your own darkness and being like, no, I don't wanna. You're all people.
Yeah, I think apart from anything else, the horrors of this story began when there's a player who, I think, Rue, you said in chat something like, oh, this is like an NPC with only like so many many lines of dialogue.
I've run out of one-liners on my page here.
The world ended for me a long time ago. Like, and that's all. Like, that's already a bummer. Apart from anything else, like, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to play with someone who's like, yeah, I'm kind of doing my own thing. Not really.
Yeah, and you're just like, so what is it? What's the thing that you're doing?
Help me help you, brother.
We were talking about improv when we were on the call before, and it really reminds me of in like Michael Scott in The Office doing improv, where he's just like, I shoot this person, I kill this person, and that's like no one else can interact with the scene because it's just like,
it's very little kid improv, right? Like I have to say the last biggest coolest thing, so I win.
Yeah, which is how I personally play TTRPGs, but I'm really good at it, so it's fine.
If you're gonna do this,
a game, and I'm going to win.
I'm gonna do the button of every scene. And speaking of which, let's move on to the next story. This one does merit a content warning. This is from r/critcrab, which is a YouTuber who does actually kind of what I'm doing. Like does Reddit stories. It's not original. I never said this idea was original. I just said I wanted to do it. Content warnings.
This is an intervention, actually. We're really concerned about this.
Everyone in chat is, please stop. Please stop being on Reddit so much. No, I never will. Content warnings for this one do include abuse and death of a fictional animal. So it's an animal in the world of D&D, not an actual animal, but it's still pretty upsetting. The title for this one is, What Could I Have Done to Handle This Better After My DM and a Player Killed Our Party Mascot on Purpose, then retconned it after I reacted poorly. This happened a number of years ago when I was in my early 20s. Billy was a random goat we found in a canvas bag on the body of a hill giant we had killed, and we basically took him as loot. Billy was mostly used as an AoE token since we played on a digital tabletop and had no other use for a goat at that point since we didn't track food or water, and I didn't think he was worth selling. We would drop him into combat to measure the distance of fireball for our wizard, figure out party travel movement on the world map, etc., etc. He was just a little guy doing little dude things, and while pets were not discussed as being part of the party previously, it was sort of assumed by myself and the group that Billy was our little immortal mascot. He didn't eat or drink, and nobody really particularly kept track of him because he was just at the base, or in my pocket, or somewhere else silly and impossible whenever he wasn't on screen. My DM and my friend Raven were chilling in the Discord before our usual start time. This was unusual, so I asked permission to join the call and come hang out early in case they were in the middle of something. Raven had missed last week, so I didn't want to interrupt if they were getting a catch-up from the DM or doing some roleplay for what their character was doing while separated from the group. After a few minutes, I was granted permission and joined. Raven, the DM, and I caught up a bit, and I asked what they were doing, etc., if they wanted to tell me. I can't explain the feeling of dread that settled over me when I heard Raven and DM start chuckling to each other and making little jokes that I can't remember anymore. They told me not to worry about it and that I'd find out soon. Thinking that it had something to do with Raven's backstory, I was excited but still nervous. I'm an anxious person by nature, so I decided to brush this off. I trusted my friends, after all. At this point, the DM had never harmed an animal or a child as per my request before Session 0, and the only deaths in the game had been basically collateral damage we weren't able to save. The rest of the group joins the Discord call in the Roll20 game. The characters, mine included, who went shopping in town return home and find the NPC we live with barely alive. My character uses the only bit of diamond dust she has to revive and heal them. The rest of the group checked the rest of the base. At this point, we thought an enemy had broken in, and we were worried about Raven, who was unconscious last we saw of them, and was planned to be that way, like Sleeping Beauty, until that player could return to the group. Everything was quiet. That is, until one of the other party members made their way to our common area. The DM waited until all of our characters were present in our common area before continuing his narration of the scene. Each of our doors had a message written on them from Raven, painted in goat's blood. My character had been consistently kind to Raven, and the two of them considered each other good friends. So when the DM used Roll20's reveal note function to show me a message from Raven that simply said, "Try the roast," as the DM then began to describe the delicious smell of slow roasting meat that someone had hung over my character's smithy/forge, well, I didn't take that very well. I muted myself in the Discord call so that people couldn't hear me starting to cry, trying not to cause a scene. For the few more minutes that I stayed in the call, I couldn't hear or see any reason that this had occurred other than the DM and Raven's player had some sort of sick sense of humor and thought this was a great idea. I guess to further some kind of plot, but I don't know. I left the call, grabbed my dog, and sat away from my computer for a few minutes so I could get control of myself again. Meanwhile, after I left, DM and Raven were confused and asked what had happened to me. My best friend chewed them out for taking away player agency or something like that, and I eventually rejoined the call after I was told that the DM had retconned Billy's murder. I felt bad for causing a scene, deciding to stay muted pretty much the rest of the night, and sending a message to Raven and the DM after the session apologizing for overreacting to the death of an imaginary goat. And so Billy the goat got unmurdered just as unceremoniously as he had been murdered initially, but to be honest, I don't think I ever pulled his token out again. We made a generic AoE token, and the DM bought some proper measuring tools, and we as a group more or less swept the whole thing under the rug as we desperately tried to reach the end of the campaign, which fizzled out not long after that when the DM went on a hiatus and never returned. So now it just seems more and more apparent that I should have just cut and run from that group and nabbed the people I still talked to from that game before this happened, but hindsight is 2020. Yeah. Yes, that was
The
a
red flag sound keeps reminding me of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Someone doing a cool flip.
Yeah, who's at 900 in chat?
I love her doing a red flag at the very end of the story. Like, yes, I've decided. This is a red flag.
Your hindsight being 2020 is the red flag.
The real red flag is you
shouldn't have
didn't
said
have
that.
the wherewithal in the moment. Wow, cringe.
Kind of edgy of you to leave the call and cry.
I say as a person that like famously like way later like realizes things are like,
Yeah.
like this would have been a good scene.
Yeah.
I think that bad thing that happened, and he was bad after all. Wait a goddamn.
Yeah. Yeah, so what do you guys think about that? Good?
I believe my note here says, yeah, that sucks. It's a bad thing to do.
Yeah,
I'll be real. Beginning part of the story, I'm like, it's okay for a GM and a player to connive in secret. And I was like, okay. And then they said, like, I mentioned in my session 0, no harm to animals, please. I was like, oh, yep, nope, bad.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, this is wild. Wild for a person to just be like, this is gonna be a funny prank.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's all pretend, sure, but that's the whole reason you do a session 0 is to make sure you're not deliberately upsetting your friends in a real way, you know? I think by virtue of doing TTRPGs, we're signing up for some discomfort, especially if you're playing a game with hit points like D&D or Call of Cthulhu or Lasers and Feelings, what have you. Like, you're kind of like on board with mortality, but that's why you say, like, hey, I want to play a game and not have my actual real triggers upset here, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know I've definitely had games where if we have like a pet or something, I think one of the first things either a GM or a player will say is we'll be like, is this like, is there harm that's going to come to this? Are they just immortal to like the plot and they consistently have plot armor that like we could get totally like messed up, but the dog or whatever will be just, running off and having a good life afterwards.
There's a
After a
TPK
total
except
party
the
kill.
dog.
Yeah.
And I put the dog on doesthedogdie.com, just so I'm clear. I will say
Yeah.
I am a little okay with how they handled it afterwards. I think if you're gonna upset your friend that badly and then you get chewed out, there is a part of me that's glad they didn't dig in their heels and fall on their sword and be like, well, it already happened, so tough.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're like, okay, let's rewind that. Sorry, our bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something to the fact that they did attempt to like reconcile the situation instead of being like, I can never admit I'm wrong.
Yeah, they didn't
Yeah.
David.
Actually, this is real to me. I had a goat that I
You
hated.
guys know how much I
and
love killing goats. I'm leaving.
I only want to play this game if I can kill goats. I think the reason I included this in the Edgelords thing is because it feels so weird that, like, according to this player, this really came out of nowhere, and it feels like
Yeah.
something that, like, a teenage boy would be like, huh, wouldn't it be funny if that, like, kind of not, borderline not a character, I would say, like, a token that gets used a lot for, like, other things. Wouldn't it be funny if we killed and ate that thing? It's like...
And they did it so viscerally too. It was like, why does the member of your party, presumably a friend, need to put blood on the doors like it's the damn Passover?
Yeah.
What was the point of that?
Yeah, so random that like they had been gone for, it seemed like a session or something.
They said a session, one session.
Yeah. And they were like, yeah, I'm gonna like just completely I'm the bad guy now, actually.
I'm gonna turn into kind of a serial killer.
That's actually my backstory now.
It sounds like it was out of character for them too, because they had that note. Like, I thought I was nice to this person and their friend, and we're writing secret notes. We had to use reveal note.
Yeah, I did love the Roll20 specifics that were included here. I was like, oh yeah, that means Roll20.
We had to wait for all our characters.
I don't even use Roll20, so they were mentioning that, and I was like, why would they need to like make it a secret? Like, why? I don't know. Like come back and like, hey guys, you know how we're all starving and we have this goat lying around?
Yeah. The other thing I think is funny is if I can only imagine, because I am kind of a little bit of a shit when I'm a player sometimes. So, like, the DM being like, you see a note written in goat's blood. I would be like, okay, how do I know it's goat's blood? Like, blood pretty much looks the same.
Hey, is that Billy's? It certainly isn't ours.
Whose blood could this be? It's goat blood. You know by the
anyone
smell.
missing blood?
Can I do an investigation check to see if this actually is goat blood or not?
That just screams like the GM was too excited about the twist and just blew
it.
Yeah.
Was just like, I'm gonna do something wild and watch your reactions, and it's like, all right, listen, I guess.
I've blown twists before because I was too excited and used the wrong word to describe something to 100% clue someone into what was happening because I had the zoomies about it, but like nothing fucked up usually. Nothing that clearly violates someone's lines and veils.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it weren't for the lines and veils part of it all, I wouldn't do this. But I do run a home game of Monster Hearts, which is a horror game, and my players have on many occasions accused me in a good way. They'll put it as a star, so I'm doing the right thing. Will say, you know how to twist a bit into like oh, now this like matters and maybe is bad.
Yeah.
So I think that can be fun if it's like, oh, this thing that we've
Yeah.
like been using, and then it turns out there's like something about it or whatever. Not in this way, and this is a little too edgy for me. Like to just be like, we kill a goat and the blood. There's notes written in blood. It's like,
Yeah,
We
that's such a
unceremoniously killed and cooked a goat for ostensibly no good reason.
yeah, just out of nowhere. There no like story beat to it. One of the first TTRPG I ever played, which was it with a group of strangers, because the first games I ever played was at Big Bad Con. Was Dialect, and we had a game where we ended up establishing that some of us had pets that we were like in a cyberpunky kind of world, so like they were animals that had been like set out as like, you know, like police dog kind of things that we had rerouted into pet form. Like, but we was always kind of like a question of, okay, what is it actually? And my character had one and another character had one. And there was a point in the story in Dialect where kind of the tone shifts a little bit. And as we were looking at the prompts, we were like, oh, what if these dogs that are like around us, like they were also like robots, so it wasn't like actual dogs, but it's still, we had a lot of establishing scenes of like some of us having like interactions and stuff. We were like, oh, what if it turns? And I remember like a player being like, oh wait, hold on, before we like do this, and me and the other player that had owned the dogs were like, yeah, let's do this, you know, dystopian twist. They were like, can we check in with everyone, especially the people whose characters like have a relationship with these animals, that like it's okay that we do this? Because they were like, we can just do a totally different story beat if it's not okay, because there were other options where the twist would be just something completely unrelated. And they're like, we can just do one of the other options. They're like, I don't care, so let's just check in and make sure. And we hadn't done a specific lines and veils for this. I don't think we'd ever covered harm to animals or kids, and all of our characters were kids, so it was kind of going in that it was those lines and veils were blown very early on.
yeah.
But yeah, like just thinking about the fact, like this was people I'd met that day. I'd never heard of them before. I didn't know who they were. And I remember that was a very like establishing moment for me, that like, oh, this person who I don't know at all, who had no reason to like respect that question, was like, wait, let's check in and make sure that this is actually okay. And I remember being like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, let's do the interesting thing.
I mean, it's a real testament to like, if you're listening and paying attention and empathetic, even like in a completely like I know nobody here situation.
Right, I could walk away from this with no consequences.
Yeah, and it's good to vocalize that. It's so easy to dunk on edgelords, and we're going to a lot, and they deserve it. I also think it is also good if you're a player or a GM stuck dealing with that situation. It's good to raise your voice as it's happening. So like, you know, I don't, the person struggling with anxiety, do not tell them how to live their life in the moment, because I know what that does to your brain and your heart when it's happening. If you have the presence of mind to recognize that something feels wrong, or like the moment the GM says it's goat's blood, that's a good opportunity to be like, hey, can we not with this?
Yeah,
I told you, can we not with this? And you're doing this.
Yeah, it is like a big thing to like have someone speak up, like especially in that situation. It was someone who seemed like a little more established in knowing how to play games and stuff, so it just kind of opened up that space so much, because me and one other player, this was our first game, so it just helped so much to have someone kind of advocating. I had another game that weekend where the GM, I think mistakenly, was like, oh, the characters want like a very edgelordy kind of player, because we were playing Kagematsu, so they were playing the character that we're all trying to woo. And they had like a bunch of photo cards, and everyone had chosen the like kind of edgier looking person. And I was like, sure, I don't care. um, but like the game kind of went off the rails because I think they were like, oh, they want Edgelord, and what the interpretation they took in of that was very like aggressive. Like at first they were just kind of a jerk, and I was like, okay, I guess this guy's kind of a jerk, and maybe he'll turn around as we interact with them. But I'll like play off of that. But then like took a really weird turn where like they like kind of assaulted a character and like attack, and I was like, what? And it was such a palpable like switch in everyone, all the players like actions, and it was like a primarily femme table. The GM was femme as well, so like it just was like such a bizarre situation. Like that and the other game have been my two like just like guideposts of like how things can go so well or so wrong. I do think the GM felt very bad, but I was also like, what a decision to make, and then just decide to continue to go with. And I think like the table was fairly, I mean, we were people who were pretty unfamiliar with each other. And I think just folks felt unsure what to do. So we ended up just kind of in character attempting to work around it. Like all of our characters became much more like favorable to each other, and like I remember my goal in the game became like, oh well, I don't care about wooing this guy anymore. Like anything I can do to like break this relationship, I will. And in the end I somehow won the game because there is a winner to Kagematsu, and I was like, yeah, I like send that guy off because he was the secret king or something, and I was like, I take over the kingdom, and I like, I don't know, send him to like someplace,
send him to prison,
someplace. Yeah, I like exile him or something.
Oh, that's so funny. Can you tell me more? I'm not familiar with the game Kagematsu. Like, what is the game?
The original version of it, I don't remember when it was released, but the original version of it is that the GM plays a traveling samurai character, and they go to a village. All the players are women in the village who are trying to convince them to stay and like protect the village because there is like, it's wartime, so they don't have any other protection, and the men in the village are gone. So it's a game about like either trying to convince or seduce the character into staying, and like, so it's like built to be kind of antagonistic because like both sides kind of have just like a specific goal in mind. And then the version we played was an into the woods like hack of it or change to it. It's an interesting system, interesting game. It plays off of like tokens, is used a lot. So you either gain or lose tokens, and then that determines how well or badly you can roll on things. There's like a table of possible scene results that work. And the scenes take place kind of one after the other. So for the most part, players are just one-on-one with GMs. But there's like sometimes where players are interacting with each other, but not very often.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I was like very excited for it, and then I was like, whoa, this went in some other direction.
Sideways. Yeah. Okay, well, I think we have time for another story before the break. This one's a little more lighthearted. I heavy loaded with the ones that were kind of like really out there.
Pull the weak from the chat so they stick around for the fun stuff.
Yeah, the goal is to get people to stop watching, right?
Apparently.
So this one is from r/RPG horror stories, and the title of this one is Edgelord feels attacked because character generation lets him be an edgelord, it just calls him out on it. And the text of this is, so no, I normally play Dungeon Crawl Classics when I run a game at a game store. I picked up a DCC adventure about fighting what is basically Jason Voorhees in a tomb. I decide instead of DCC to convert it to my current game of choice that my weekly game at home uses, Neoclassical Geek Revival. Because I always screw it up when I have 2 games in my head at once. I note this on the flyer that it will be the system and I'll provide the books. About 4 people are willing to try a new system, a married couple, a young kid, and the problem. The character generation has either build or randomly generate a character. The married couple go with random generation to learn. The kid is flipping through the book to build a barbarian because he read the PDF before the game. So far, all is well. The problem also wants to build a character, but had never heard of the system and wanted to build his Uber character and learn it on the fly. Fine, a red flag since it's a one-shot, but a minor one. You get 3 pie pieces to build your class. You could be 1 part wizard, 2 part warrior, for instance, and your powers match. The problem is looking through all the abilities and wants to be a 4 part warrior as the world's best swordsman. This isn't normally possible until you hit 10th level and get another piece of pie. He complains, and God bless him, the young kid points out it is possible in the rules. There's a little section in the character creation that says, a bit of a paraphrase, you can't have a character start with 4 pie pieces in one class, with the exception of if somebody is being a big whiner about it, in which case the GM and the other players can all roll their eyes and loudly say, fine, just get on with it, or something to that effect. The young kid read this out loud, and the problem started to look pissy. A light went off in my head. I said, fine, with an exaggerated sigh, and looked at the married couple, who went with it, so did the young kid. We had a laugh, which really seemed to annoy the problem. The young kid, being a barbarian, got some random combat tricks like warrior spells, so we look for what table is most appropriate and roll on barbarian. Easy enough. The problem, being a super warrior, also got some combat tricks. He, of course, wanted to be an Eastern sword master who returned to the West, who was unbeatable with a katana. There just so happened to be a table called Edgelord, full of anime tropes and katana-related powers. That it was called Edgelord made him visibly angry when he was told. He pretty much rage quit. The thing that I think did it in was his rolls for random tricks gave him stuff he wanted. He just didn't like that the game rules told him his character was a whiny Edgelord explicitly. And that's it.
That's game design, baby.
I can't believe this game was so mean to me.
I can't believe this
God.
PDF called me out.
Like, I don't know, man. You were being a little shit the whole time. What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. Are either of you familiar with this game? I don't know Neoclassical Geek Revival.
I don't think so.
I am not.
Yeah.
I've heard
But
of
I am
Dungeon
Googling
Crawl
it as we
Classics.
speak.
Yeah, I know. I looked up a little bit. I've heard of Dungeon Crawl Classics. I haven't played it.
Yeah, same.
But I have NGR is what it's like. Neoclassical Geek Revival is shortened to. But I was like, this is fun.
I mean, based on the name, it sounds like it's all very tongue-in-cheek as it stands. So,
Yeah.
like, and they're clearly riffing on, like, known tropes and player types. And, you know, I do think it's funny the game, like, bakes in the idea that you can be an edgy little shit about it, but you're gonna have to deal with the social consequences.
Yeah, either like you're gonna have to be able to laugh at yourself and be like, yeah, I guess I am a whiny edgelord and I'm gonna really be like cartoonish, or you're going to be like, oh, I want to do this stuff, wait.
I mean, it's kind of cool in a way because the game is designed to nerf that player's worst instincts, because like you're either gonna do what this kid did, get offended that you got called that very vanilla thing to be called. There's so many worse things you can be called than an edgelord, if we're being real.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna laugh about it and be like, okay, well, if the game's in on the joke, I'm gonna, like, you know what Rue said, I'm gonna be cartoony about it and play it up for laughs because that's the vibe of this game.
Yeah.
So shout out to the fine folks who made this game. There's 2
Yeah.
Z's in the first name. Zarkov Kowalski.
Yeah, I need to look into this game. I did look at both of these first just because they both sound like OSR games. I love OSR games. there are some OSR games that are made by not great people.
Yeah.
So I was like,
It is-
let me do a quick Google to see if either of these people are Nazis. It didn't seem like they were.
Can be a bit of a minefield
Yeah.
when you look through and you're like, oh, no.
Yeah. Which,
like
I
the
mean,
description.
like TTRPG in general, but go ahead, Grant, sorry.
No, you're cool. I was just gonna say, I love the description where it's a take on classic RPGs to the extent that none of the original mechanics survive. I'm like, I bet, yeah, this guy gets it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't walk into a trap and then get mad that you were in the trap.
Yeah.
Don't purposefully walk forward knowing you're being an asshole and then get upset when you get called out for being an asshole.
Yeah.
Very much the like meme of like the person that's biking and then puts a stick into their bike and is really mad.
How could NGR do this to me? That's so funny. Have either of you had like games that you've played with like somebody where like they're making a character and you're like, okay, okay, maybe this is a little edgelord.
Very lucky through because I'm primarily making an entertainment product, so grain of sand here.
Yeah.
But even in my home games, I haven't really run into anyone who was like, I'd really like to be a bad person. Just, like as your friend, you know, like the people we've had on the show have all been very respectful. Safety tools have been honored. I've never had someone who felt the need to stop something because a line got crossed. No, I don't think I've had anybody. I've had some people play some fucking weirdos for sure, where like the concept was so bizarre that it took a minute for the party to warm up to what they were doing, but once they were in on the joke, they bought in pretty hard. You know, my co-GM Supriya really loves to stress test a system to see what kind of bananas shit she can come up with. And really exploit a mechanic. And it's a lot of fun to watch. We were gonna do an episode of something recently where you play like evil henchmen working for an evil corporation, and everyone's like, you know, making your pretty prototypical stuff. And Soup comes in like, can I play a horse? And I'm like, nothing says you can't.
Nothing in the rules.
Well, yeah, you can airbud this.
Yeah.
Are you a talking horse or just a horse?
Yeah.
You know? So, like,
yeah. The rules say no talking horses, but it doesn't.
If you are a horse.
If you are a horse,
I've
you
also
can't
played
talk.
games where you can mechanically play a horse. There's horse playbooks in a sea of other like more humanoid. Wicked West by Finch Edmund is the game I'm referring to, and it's very much like, what if monsters existed in a western? So you have like ghouls, witches, vampires, that sort of thing. And at the tail end of the book, it says you could also play the horse.
At the very end.
But no, I've never run into like an edgelord who I had to be like, this dude is trying to intentionally ruin everything and harsh the mellow. So yeah. I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, even on the AP space, that's it's a little bit less of a dice roll, pardon the pun, but
there are some bad actors and bad apples out there for sure, but they have a tendency of getting called out and canceled.
Yeah. Rue, do you have any memorable experiences where you've had another character in a game where you're like, okay, this is maybe a little edgy?
We're making a choice. Yeah. Yeah, I think besides the one that I was talking about where it ended up being the GM, and I think for the most part, I've never had like, especially in character creation, where someone is creating something and we're like, okay, wow, we're going in this direction. Luckily, I haven't run into that too much. Or if like a person is kind of going in that direction, they've been redirected pretty easily. Like maybe they were like, this just sounds cool to me, and I've had a GM be like, what if we did this instead to like have it work with the party a little more. Yeah, like I think I may have come across a little bit of like folks that end up creating a character that kind of goes off on their own, or would, and the GM will kind of be like, okay, but what's your connection to the group? Like, why are you with them? But yeah, nothing too bad. I think most of the time that I've run into weird things has been kind of randomly in play, where a person just thinks that they're being like cool or funny, and then it's like, whoa, why did you do that?
That was neither.
Yeah. I think that has happened more often than like a full-on character that I'm like, oh god, why are you doing this?
I think sometimes in AP, the closest we really get is someone who kind of accidentally has main character syndrome a little bit. So they love to be in all the scenes, and they love to be the one making the dice rolls. And I don't think, I mean, majority of the time, I don't think it's out of any malice, because I too like to have fun and do a good time and talk to my friends. And then it kind of falls on the GM to recognize that one person is really taking up a lot of air in the room. Be like, all right, buddy, let's put you here for now. You're gonna have a little nap in the camp, and we're gonna let these other two people who haven't said a word yet kind of do some stuff for a bit.
I've seen that kind of thing a lot more often, or like been a part of that, where it's like, oh no, there's like 6 of us and only 4 of us have really talked.
Sometimes you see other characters at your table kind of do the like the itchy and scratchy and poochy thing, where like one person's been talking for a while, and then another character at the table, and if you're the type of person who does this, God bless you, you will see heaven. Just kind of like turn to the player who's been quiet and be like, now what do you think about all of this? And if you're that kind of player and you recognize that someone's been waiting for their turn and hasn't got it because this player was too excited and had the ball for too long, blessings upon you and your crops.
Yeah, true. I will say, before we go to break, I actually do have a very notable time that I was on a live stream AP, and I don't feel bad talking shit about this person, because he went on to do something much worse than what he did to me, and is like not in the space anymore.
Call him out.
I
names. Start.
I don't even actually remember what his name was. I do feel at the time I felt a little bit bad, because I do think that he had something going on neurodivergent wise. There were a lot of things where I was like, okay, I think this person is not really getting some clues. They're not really like understanding some things. But I was playing a Vampire the Masquerade game. It was streamed. It was a one-shot. And he played a character, I can't even remember. I don't think he was human, but I don't remember what kind of vampire he was. And his character had a gun, and the way that he joined the scene, he had like a daughter who was missing or something. I can't remember what it was. It was basically, he had this character that was like his OC kind of, I think, and brought him into a one shot, which already sometimes that can work, sometimes that can be a little iffy. So he had this whole thing that was like, my daughter is missing, all this different stuff. I was playing a Nosferatu, because I love Nosferatu, and the way he joined the scene, it was like the GM was like throwing to each of us like introduce our characters. Okay, you're all meeting up for this job. You like meet in this alleyway. Like my character, I like came out of a sewer because I was in Nosferatu, whatever. And his character was like, I don't even think he waited for the GM to like say, oh, and like what about? And he was just like, I'm wearing a leather trench coat, and I come around the corner, and I have a gun, and like all this different stuff.
Oh, okay.
And, like,
hey man,
something happened, and he was like, I pull out my gun and say, this isn't gonna be a problem for me. And he like had a monologue of like, my daughter is missing, blah blah, all this different stuff, but he wasn't very good at talking, like communicating, I guess. So it was also kind of indecipherable, like what the story exactly was. So the GM was just like, okay, and kept kind of doing the thing where he just like wouldn't really acknowledge what was being said and like move, like, I'd be like, okay, you all go here. And at one point, this character and I were like in a van, and I had like triggered my like obsession or whatever, like the Nosferatu like has to like find out secrets or whatever. So I was like, I'm gonna try to like use my computer to like hack into something. And the guy was like, yeah, maybe you find something about my daughter. Here's all the information about my daughter. And starts saying all this different stuff. And I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, I find all this stuff.
I'll keep my eyes open for a daughter, sure.
Yeah. And then the most egregious part is we got into an elevator. The GM was clearly throwing to break. This is a streamed game. And so starts like saying like, okay, we're going to go to break. And the guy just was like, and then I do this, and then I do this, and wouldn't stop talking. Even as the GM was like, it's break time, it's break time. So the VOD is not available anywhere, I don't think. But if it were, it would be like this guy in the middle of talking, it cuts to break because he would not stop talking. And his character was like so edgy. And like at the time I was like, I'm not gonna say anything. I think he's got some stuff going on. But then later, not to me and not for a streamed game, he like got mad at someone and he was running a game and he intentionally used all of their triggers because he was pissed off at them. So he like wrote in all this horrible stuff.
About this guy.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It does kind of sound familiar.
Yeah, it was I think a couple of years ago. So then it was like, okay, now I don't feel bad. Like him being kind of inconsiderate of other people is a character flaw and not, oh, I just can't read the room. So, but he was playing a very edgy character. It was so funny.
Oh boy.
Oh my
I pull out my gun and tell you about
a real
my
feat
daughter.
to find the level of edge that's too much for Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
A game that deliberately tells you to build a morally gray character.
Yeah. morally gray character for sure. Just very funny. Well, I am gonna not do what he did, and I'm gonna throw to break without talking through it.
Hey, wait, can I?
Wait, my character's daughter is missing though.
Taylor, have you seen
All
her
right,
daughter?
Bye. Hello, everyone. We're back with the second half of Over the Table Edgelords edition, and I'm gonna jump right back into it with another story. This is from RPG Horror Stories. Content warning for this one, there is an ableist character trope, and you'll know what it is as soon as I read the title. No, you can't use mental illness to justify having 2 character sheets.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I know what I want to say.
Actually, go read the story.
Please proceed.
Short story about a player who used to play at my wife's table in our home games. We kicked this player out of our group a couple months ago for behavior that we thought was just a misunderstanding of 5e's mechanics, math mistakes. The funniest one, I think, is multi-classing gets you the benefit of both classes, right? That eventually scaled up to blatant full-on cheating. He was never at the same table as me, so aside from checking his sheet for my wife, I never really experienced his little cheats and advantages. What stood out to me most about this player wasn't what he did at the table, but when I tried to help him make a character for a different campaign. For context, my wife runs a small series of one-shots every so often to try out different systems, group dynamics, let her creativity flow by working on something other than her massive 6-year-long multi-party campaign. This particular edition, or particular year, she wanted to try her hand at running Pathfinder 2nd Edition because the flavor of this mini-campaign was going to be very Far Cry-esque, and she wanted to have guns available. Because I love building character sheets and optimizing, my wife often relies on me to help build and check over other players' character sheets. So there was one day after a game that I approached this player and asked him, hey, do you have an idea for your Far Cry character yet? If you want, I can start researching ideas for how to build them. So this player says, is there a way to have a split personality in Pathfinder? And then the person says, what? I want my character to have a split personality, like where one of them has a certain set of abilities and the other has a different set. I thought, yeah. I thought,
right away.
That's a little insensitive to people with actual dissociative identity disorder, but at this point the Moon Knight TV show had just come out, and that sort of character idea was very in vogue. At the same time, though, this was his first time playing Pathfinder, and I wanted to steer him towards something easy to play, rather than overcomplicate with a complicated split personality mechanic that we'd essentially invent whole cloth. So I thought about it and told him, the best way to build that sort of character would be a rogue. Rogues have a massive list of skills at first level and are also pretty good in combat, so you can pick out what skills and feats are associated with what personality and play it out that way. And he responds with, no, I want the two personalities to have different stats. Like, one is a pacifist that has really high intelligence and charisma and has a bunch of non-combat skills and abilities, and the other is a psychopath that's all geared towards combat. That gave me pause. Because what he essentially told me is that he wanted to play two separate characters and swap between them as he saw fit, depending on which would be stronger for that situation.
Right.
I said, I can't sign off on that. Okaying that would be giving you two player characters while everyone else only has one. We can sort of work your stats to where you can represent both on one character sheet, but you can't have two sets of abilities to pick from just because your character has DID. He seemed less interested in the character after I said that. The game ended up getting delayed, so it never mattered, but looking back on it, it put into context why he eventually ended up getting kicked from our group. At every turn, he seems to be hyper concerned about his character having weaknesses, like a lower armor class or not doing as much damage as characters specialized to do damage. It seemed like he wanted his character to be able to do a little bit of everything, but became insecure when someone who specialized in any given particular thing outclassed him, like the tank with her armor class or the cleric with his spellcasting. I found out later from another friend he played with that he had a history of blatant cheating in his home game, with the same warning signs and symptoms that we increasingly noticed in our games with him. It's not even optimizing or munchkinning, that I could empathize with. It was just wanting to be better than other players in the party and going through illegal methods to do it. I think it's funny to call it illegal methods.
Yeah, I'm a fan TTRPGs are for you, man.
Well, I'll get you if you try to make two characters at once.
Yeah.
Our mouse eater game was illegal with our second characters ready to go.
We broke the laws. Incredible.
Can I just say that wife sounds dope?
Yeah.
I dig her style.
Yeah. Hey, OP, is your wife single?
Hey, OP, does your wife want to be on an actual play? Sounds like she's really got a good head on her shoulders for systems and mechanics.
Yeah. Yeah, it said a 6-year-long campaign, multi-party campaign, which that's
While
like...
also
that's
balancing a bunch of
wild.
one-shots in betweens just to do something different every now and again. That rules.
Yeah.
That's
That is
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sounds bad.
Case closed. I think it's funny. So I haven't watched Moon Knight, and I don't.
Yeah, neither
Does
have I.
Moon Knight have dissociative identity disorder, or is it just something
Yes.
else? Because they're okay. I wasn't sure. It's funny to me when people think that dissociative identity disorder, your stats wouldn't be different, right? Like, if you had DID and you were a character in a TTRPG, you're still the same person. So it's not like your strength when you're, like, disassociating with one identity is, like, different than your... You know what I mean? Like, you're still the same person. So, like, I don't understand people's, like, obsession with this in TTRPGs.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that Moon Knight... Hi, I'm gonna expose myself as a nerd here super hard.
What?
Oh no! Where's the red
I
flag?
know. I know. I seem pretty cool and motorcycle driving at this point, but so Moon Knight's whole deal is that he does have that, and that's been an established part of his character since the comics. He's always had dissociative identity disorder, and it's not always respectful, but it's never used as like a power, if you will.
Yeah.
So one of the personalities is, and just walk with me here, gang, is a very skilled mercenary for hire. That was his real job, and he had a personality that made him better at that. And that is the personality that also is the avatar for an Egyptian god. The other one's less so. Like one is more like a mild mannered like gift shop employee at a museum, and the other one is like a meaner guy. Like he's like more aggressive, but he's not like a psychopath or whatever that they normally do with like DID or schizophrenia or whatever. So like again, not always respectful. A little weird to say one of your superpowers is an Egyptian god and you're imagining it, you know. But you know. Moon Knight's also occasionally one of the more progressive Marvel characters, and is the source of one of my favorite comic panels of all time, where he's walking down a dark castle-y hallway and says, "Dracula, you bitch, you owe me $20."
Yeah, that's the only thing I know about Moon Knight.
Yeah, no, Moon Knight kind of rules and sometimes doesn't. It depends on the author of Moon Knight. I will say the Disney Plus series that Marvel did is pretty respectful to the whole thing. I don't think Oscar Isaac would have signed up for it if it wasn't, you know. That said, weird that that's your reference point, man, because Moon Knight is very clear that the DID he suffers from is a blatant weakness.
Yeah.
It makes it harder for him.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me. People fixate on DID as like, it's almost like the same way that people's like TTRPG characters will be like, oh, they have heterochromia or like whatever. It's like this like specific thing that people fixate on, but then what they want is not what DID is at all, I guess. Yeah. It's like the thing that I always think is strange. Like, just say that you're, I don't know, don't make a DID. Just say like, oh yeah, I'm like possessed or something. Like that makes
I'm
more
like
sense.
super powered when like that is a way to do that kind of thing a little bit more, where they have like in some games where it's like, oh, you have like you're like monstrous, so like sometimes you know, Hulk out or whatever, which is like probably like I honestly like play the Hulk, I guess. And
just play a barbarian
sometimes.
Barbarians have rage. Just do that. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, you know, one particular mental disorder is mischaracterized more than any other one, because they all are to an extent, and a lot of people have tried to use those as like a stand-in for a superpower in a lot of ways. But boy, people sure do love to misinterpret DID as I can turn into different stuff that do different things.
Yeah.
Which no. The reality is hell.
I think my very first introduction to that was, very unfortunately, Baywatch.
Oh, yeah.
What? There's an episode where someone, I think in that they address it to, they put it to schizophrenia rather than DID. But yeah, it was exactly that. It was like, this person is different people. And I'm like, I guess. Sure. Like at the time I was like, okay, like I was like a child. So I was like, I guess this is what this is. Like, I don't know. They put it on TV, so it must be true.
The famously progressive and very thoughtful time period of entertainment. And people love to give, like, you know, a multiple personality disorder person an evil personality all the time. And one of them's a killer. It's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm glad their reaction was kick this jabroni. This dude's
a freak. Yeah. It's also, I think the thing that's funny that's going on here is like the person writing the story is like, this was insensitive, but also this person was cheating, and this was kind of a symptom of their wanting to cheat. Is like, how can I play two characters?
That's what it boils down to. You're looking for a reason to play two character sheets, and you landed on the shitty one, and and of the many shitty ones, and also in Pathfinder, the game that lets you do anything you want anyway.
I have not played Pathfinder actually, so
It's
That's
I don't
one
know.
I have that is as D&D adjacent as I have gotten. I played Pathfinder and I'm like, okay, cool. I can now I can have an
yeah.
opinion on all.
Pathfinder is for the people who play Dungeons and Dragons and think to themselves, "Boy, this sure is fun, but I wish there was 1,000 more things I could do in level
I wish
2.
there were rules and things for everything.
I wish every little detail was mechanicized so I don't have to role play that much."
Maybe
I
not
do.
for
Although
me.
to Pathfinder's credit, I've only played it once and it let me play a rat pirate, so it is a pretty great game.
Yeah, you should do a like a blog post that's like all the games where you can play a rat pirate.
Cool. I got Pathfinder, I got Mouse Ritter.
There's gotta be more.
It could be every game
know,
if you
I
try
know
hard
there's
enough.
a game in my dang library right there that like gives you different woodland
Oh.
creatures.
You could play a rat pirate in Wanderhome.
That's
Oh,
true. You can be a rat
Also,
pirate in Wanderhome.
Root is another one.
True.
That's what I was
They're
thinking.
all
Root,
animals.
yep.
Root.
Bunnies and Burrows has some nice playable characters, and they can be pirate flavored.
Oh, and Mouse Guard. I was like, what's the one that's
This is the
like
stream
Mouse
now.
Guard?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sound off in chat.
We're talking about
Chat,
rat
tell us
games.
where else we can play Rat Pirates. I think you can play it in anything if you try really hard.
True. You can do it in D&D. Listen, there's a lot of bad things to say about D&D, and I've said them, but the reason everyone keeps going back to it is because it's so infinitely flexible to the point where in the most recent edition, the game's creators are just walking out with their hands up, and the main rule of the game now is fuck it, sure.
Yeah, you can play a rat pirate in D&D, which Matt Mercer did in Pirates of the Leviathan, so
That's
confirmed.
There you go. Have we convinced you now, Rue?
Never.
That's another stipulation.
Rue's like, you in 10 other games where I can be a rat pirate. I don't need D&D.
Matt Mercer's
I have to
already
get
done
through
it.
my
in D&D.
backlog of games before I ever get to D&D.
Relatable. Anything either of you want to say? Anything else about this Edgelord character?
Oh, yeah, don't build a character with a mental illness so you can exploit a loophole in a system.
Yeah.
Lord.
We need
Yeah.
more
Square-
disability representation in games for sure, but not like this.
Not like
like that.
this. Absolutely not. My thing is, I don't know, square with your insecurities, my dude.
Does that guy want to have DID? Like in his real life, does he think it'll give him a superpower?
If
It's
only
just
I
like,
had
it's not-
DID.
It's not fair. Other people can have better powers than me. I'm like, yeah, because
How
you're in
fun
a
to live
party.
3 lives at once.
Amazing. Okay, I'll move on to the next story then. Let's see, which one do I want to do? Let me look at the time. Okay, we're good on time. This one is from just r/D&D. The DM has a DMPC, and they're too powerful in my opinion. The DM disagrees. How do I approach? I cut out a little bit of stuff about this because there was a lot of like D&D, like it's this and this and this. So if there are
Sure.
questions, I can say like, oh, this is the party and blah blah blah. But I'll just cut to the chase. Our DM has recently introduced their own character to our campaign who used to be a villain in the story. They were a Hexblade warlock and a vampire until the story involved them regaining their humanity and becoming an Eldritch knight fighter. While they were a villain, they did not follow the class rules of a warlock at all and almost wiped the party. The DM maintains that the fight was doable before he had to end the fight instead of killing us. Since the DMPC has been an Eldritch Knight and added to our party, we've noticed they have an outrageous kit. Some of the Warlock spells carried over, and they all of a sudden have over 200 hit points. Our second highest hit point is my Paladin with 142. I'm not an expert, but you would have to roll almost perfect hit dice and have really good con from level 1 to get that kind of HP from my point of view. Additionally, they dual-wield pistols and have sharpshooter and crossbow expert. So at level 15, they can attack 4 times per turn, and based on their stats, have a +8 to hit using sharpshooter, and do a minimum of 19 damage each shot. With action surge that could take out anyone in the party that the DM wants to down, so we can't even rebel against them. He also maintains that action surge gives you another bonus action, which I know is BS. He basically inserted his own main character to the game. We did have an NPC with us, but he's forgotten to let their turn happen multiple times because he's so enamored by his new DMPC. It's frustrating, and the other players have told me that they are also frustrated by this. How do I bring this up to him without causing an uproar from the only DM we've had for the last 3 years? I know this is a lot of words, but it's so much BS that we're having to deal with.
Always respect the person who just wants to say BS instead of bullshit.
You can swear, it's Reddit. You can say bullshit.
Buddy, I guarantee you they're saying worse words in that comment section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think our guy here is tired of DMing.
Yeah. I put this as Edgelord just because then I read a Hexblade warlock vampire. I was like,
With
okay.
2 guns.
With 2 guns. He turned into an Eldritch Knight. Still pretty edgelordy, I think, the Eldritch Knight class.
And has a crossbow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what do you think of this? Other than the DM wants to play as a player.
Yeah, he clearly wants to play, but also like the person he wants to play sounds exhausting to play with.
That is the thing. Is like they want to play someone that they're like a hop and a step away from the last person that we
A little bit.
covered. Maybe they can be in a group together that just annihilate anything.
Yeah.
They'll learn how boring that is.
I've been a DM before. I've run Dungeons and Dragons, and I too have made an NPC that I thought was so cool and would love to play more as a person in something else. But I'm not sitting there being like, and now you have to let me play with you.
And now my guy kills all of the other guys that I'm also
Weirdly enough,
playing.
my guy that I fell in love with also had a gun, but that's because he was a cowboy.
Yeah. Less edgy.
Little, very much. Have y'all seen An American Tail, Fievel Goes West?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's Wyatt Burp's character, but if he was a rabbit.
I love
just
that.
a retired gunslinging hare who's just a little slow, but still got it a little. Anyway, this is someone put me in your D&D game. I'm a great hare and gun. And I won't
Anyone
even
in
impose
chat
them on you.
who still plays D&D.
Is anyone there left? Should we still like this?
Amazing.
Yeah. I hate to keep playing the same harp, but don't do this. Do this thing. Tell your table, hey guys, I've been DMing us for 3 years. I've been the only DM. I'd like to play, and I have a fun idea for a character. Can someone else do something, please?
Yeah.
Please,
Can you run a
please stop
one-shot?
making me do this. Yeah, I also thought concerning for the group being like, this is the only DM we can get for a while. So I'm like, oh, they're also just kind of locked into this.
Yeah.
A lot of these stories seem to involve like a table paralyzed with fear over something.
Yeah,
Everyone's like, we don't know what to do, and I'm like, talk to them.
Yeah.
No, what else can we do?
We're all introverts and nerds. We can't do that.
We're afraid to talk, except for if we're talking as as a vampire
If I
werewolf.
experience confrontation, I'll simply pass away.
I have to be able to roll to hit.
Yeah.
I did go full like meme math lady when you were explaining all the stuff the Eldritch Knight was doing, and I was like, sure, sounds bad.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I agree with Angry Artist or Jess in chat, who is like, we gotta start getting these groups some GM-less systems. I was
True.
really thinking this. I was like,
100%.
play a GM-less game. You don't even need them. No gods, no masters.
Who needs a GM?
Play Wanderhome.
Yeah.
True.
Or
Yeah.
even, I think a lot of people. First of all, love Wanderhome. So do play Wanderhome.
You can be a rat pirate.
You can be a rat pirate. What more do you need to hear? I do also think that people who are only familiar with belonging outside belonging as a GM list system are doing themselves a disservice, because a lot of times what people bounce off of with belonging outside belonging is the lack of structure, which is fair. They're not super structured games. There is structure to them, but everyone kind of has to be on board and know what they're doing, or like most people do. Otherwise, you do end up with one person who kind of GMs because they know how to play. That's not the only type of GM-less game. There are a lot of games that people don't think of as GM-less because the game is the GM. So, like, Fiasco is a GM-less game. People don't really think of it that way. But because the game does so much of the heavy lifting. Or For the Queen is a GM-less game.
Yes.
But the game provides the structure. So if you're someone watching this and you're like, GM-less games, like, I just think I've tried playing, something belonging outside belonging, and I just wanted something a little bit more like, something a little bit harder, I guess. Something where you're, like, put up against obstacles and you can't just say, and then I solve it, because Wander Home or Belonging Outside Belonging games can be like that. There's other games that are GM-less that you're playing against the game. I just played a game called The Zone, which is GM-less, and it's like fully you can get a physical version, but there's a free version that's like fully a browser game, and the browser part of it is the game master. Like, it tells you, here's what you do, this is what you're doing. So a little aside for a misconception.
I completely agree. We're in like a really neat GM-less like golden age right now, because I think that's been like a very pervasive not problem, but like, thing throughout TTRPGs is you have, a ratio of people who are willing to be the GM versus a player, and the player side is stacked. Yeah. And then you also have the added obstacle of not just finding a GM, but finding a GM you like and can vibe with, who won't do a self-insert character. So, and like, like part of the appeal of D&D is the rules and the classes and such. So finding a GM-less system that scratches that itch is the next trick. But there's so many great ones. Like we've mentioned Wander Home, these belonging outside belonging structure type systems. There are some great PBTA games that are coming out that go GM-less. God Killer comes to mind. I fucking love God Killer, and that's got some bite to it. We have solo games that can be interpreted that way. There's a really great horror game that I stumbled into the other day that's like 2 players, called This Game Takes Place in Your Hometown, where you're where you're a couple actively dodging the end of the world or getting caught by a serial killer, and that's dope. That's cool. 10 Candles, Dread.
Dread, GM-less.
I was just thinking.
Has a GM.
I was trying to look up. I couldn't remember if Dread was GM-less or not.
It's kind of like GM optional. Okay. I've seen there are some Dread-inspired things that I've seen go the GM-less route. Yeah. And They Were Daughter Mates comes to mind, which is a game where you play a bunch of gay nuns, and you're essentially playing Dread until you get caught being a gay nun.
I need to play that.
That's great.
I need to play that immediately. Starcrossed is also Dread.
Yeah, it was Starcrossed. Dialect is also a GM-less game. That one has a lot of structure. That was my very first TTRPG, and I remember being like, "Oh, this is great." I went into it super nervous because I was like, "Oh my god, what if I'm bad at games?" Like the whole drive because I could drive to Big Bad Con. I was just like, "Oh god, what if I'm like horrible at games?" My whole self-identity for the past couple years.
Powergaming is GM-less too, right? Because you don't have to have someone who plays their own, and it can be like an implied character.
I think so. So like, and then another game I played that weekend was Captain My Captain, which I think is out, which is James D'Amato's For the Queen hack. And that also is GM-less. And that I played like a weird character that got way too obsessed with their captain and was like writing like ledgers and debts on their arms and tattooing them on their arms.
Haven't we all?
Yeah. The most edgelordiest I've ever been.
GMless games are a cool way to also nerf an edgelord because you're all actively working together and you have no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like the game balance is usually pretty good in a
Yeah.
GMless game where you can't have a person that's just like, I'm doing everything and I'm good at all things.
Yeah, that's true. You can have that sometimes if the rest of the people at the table are timid. You can have
Sure.
somebody in a GM-less game,
That's
if
true.
it's not very structured, can kind of steamroll things. I have written a GM-less game that's not published. Who knows if I ever will, but I included a mechanic because mine's a comedy game. It's called Jerks on TV. It's like supposed to emulate like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like Seinfeld, like that genre of show. And I included a mechanic where when you're playing a comedy game, a lot of times people want to like punch up each other's jokes, but sometimes it's hard to be like, I actually don't want that to happen. Like,
Yeah.
it's GM-less, but so I did a thing. It's token based, and so you can punch up jokes, but you have to offer the person a token, and they have to say yes, which I just stole from Good Society.
Oh, I love Good Society too.
Yeah.
That's
Which
another
can be GM-less.
GM-less? Okay, yeah.
You can do either way, facilitator.
Have you heard of Benjamin Gray, who's one of the GMs on Roleplay Retcon? He wrote a game called Flops, which is essentially a GM-less game where you and your friends take a bad movie and you turn it into a good TTRPG, and it's all GM-less. Funnily enough, some friends and I watched the movie Baywatch with The Rock.
Like a Baywatch reference.
Yeah.
If you take one thing from this stream from me, it's don't watch the movie Baywatch.
But do watch the episode of the TV show where someone has DID.
Just for the experience.
Get
But
traumatized.
there's a lot of cool stuff out there for folks who are looking to do something a little bit more collaborative. And if everyone at your table is like, please don't make me DM, then don't use a DM.
Yeah, don't do it. And that also kind of solves I feel like the other problem that pops up a lot, which is that someone is just stuck as a GM and they're like, cool, I have to be in charge every single time.
All my players have backed me into a corner. This is my life now.
Yeah, true. Okay, so I have one more that I think I have time for. It's very short. And this one is also from r/RPG Horror Stories. Also, I will say, I saw somebody in chat submitted a story. I tune in for the next Over the Table because I don't have time to incorporate it now, but I will incorporate it in the next one. So tune in or watch the VOD for that one. So this one is from r/RPG Horror Stories, and the title is Beating the Edgelord Out of Someone in 20 Minutes. It is it is
on main.
Not literally. Just started the second campaign with the group, and I kid you not, relatively new player, only played a barbarian previously, just started his new ranger and introduced them in the following way. He sits in the corner with his bandana over his mouth, hiding his true identity. He watches everyone with a brooding intent, working out each of their weaknesses. He lifts the bandana and takes a sip of his drink, still not revealing his face. He talks to no one. Meanwhile, rest of the party set up on the table in the middle, ignoring the creep in the corner, and start role-playing. Suddenly a commotion comes from outside, and we go to investigate, leaving a broody main character Broodson to his corner. We mosh the critters, causing the commotion when he appears without getting involved and says, "Why didn't you call for me? We didn't know you were there. You were sitting in the brooding corner. Thought you were a pile of dirty bandanas." He's better now and is actually engaging in the game.
That rules.
What quick thinking.
Oh, he didn't talk to us. Okay.
We don't know you. This is the first session.
And you are?
You're hiding your identity from us actively.
We thought you were the laundry. That's a good line.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I love Taylor's edgelord reading voice, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
When they first said they had a bandana over their mouth, I did fully think it was like in headband form. So I was like, they tied up their own mouth.
I can't even speak. I talk to no one.
They're wearing a veil.
I'm a bride. I'm an edgy bride.
I'm down at that concept. Edgelord bride would be a lot of fun.
There's a bride in the corner of this tavern. She's not speaking to anyone.
She has her veil over her face.
And it is
She
hard
has
to
a veil
see
of what down a bouquet of flowers, the happiest day of her life, and yet.
And she says, my world ended a long time ago.
My husband's alive, but
my husband's alive, but I don't like him.
That's the thing that's wrong.
I love this party. I love this gang who were just like, okay, if you're not gonna play, then you're not gonna play with us.
Yeah.
We're doing.
Yeah. Why do you? I'm curious to know what you two think of this. This specific scenario is such a trope in TTRPGs, even though it doesn't work, basically. It's very difficult to pull off. What do you think, like, why do people gravitate to this? Like, what makes people want to do something like this in a game?
Boba Fett.
I was gonna be like people growing up on Lord of the Rings, and they're like, I'm Strider, actually.
Yeah.
All the edgy characters in Lord of the Rings get got, though.
Yeah, and they do get like fully like pulled out of that very quickly.
Yeah.
The whole point of Lord of the Rings is we win with the power of friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes there's like a part of people who want to be like wanted, like want to be pulled in. So there's like an impulse to be like, well, you have to work for like my character. But nobody wants to do that for the most part. Unless everyone agrees.
Yeah, I feel like that there's this like bizarre idea of like, I want that to happen, but like naturally. I don't it's like, I don't know if it's like they've seen shows and stuff and they're just like, this must happen naturally, and not that was literally probably talked about and, you know, fabricated to be a certain way. Because I've definitely had characters where I've been like, oh, I want them to like not want to be a part of the group, but I usually like talk it out. I'm like, I'm probably gonna go off and do something else. In the idea is that I, you know, will be brought back by something. Usually I just bring myself back. I'm like, no, you losers, I guess I have to come back and help you. But yeah, like I feel like to do that really effectively, it's like you have to say your plan. You have to be like, I'm gonna be in the corner and I want you all to ask me for help.
Yeah.
I think people on a cultural touchstones, especially folks in the like Gen X millennial ballpark, where a lot of like the really cool characters are kind of like dark and brooding or sassy or something, you know. I mean, look how crazy people went because they put Shadow the Hedgehog in the third Sonic movie, you know. Deep inside of us there's a dark cringe lord just wanting to be loved.
Wow. Great. You really, leading up to this, you were like, I'm going to go hard on these edgelords. And then at the end of the episode, you're like, aren't we all?
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all a little edgelord inside?
I think you two hit the nail on the head. It's the desire to be wanted, even if you're not perfect by any means.
Yeah.
So that's certainly in there. I'm not trying to say like people who do that. There are some people who just want to be an asshole, who just want to, you know, push people's buttons, be deliberately antagonistic and obstinate, you know, see how, you know, where the line is and if they can cross it, you know, like in equal parts, those people who grew up liking the assholes with a heart of gold. A lot of people also grew up liking, I don't know, South Park, Family Guy, you know, and are very much like, oh, I love that sense of humor. I want to do that. And it's like, how about you don't? It's barely funny on those mediums.
Yeah, I guess Before we wrap up and do plugs, I will ask. I don't know how to word this. Okay, when you do your plugs, I'll throw to each of you. You can either say the most edgelord character you've played. As a self call out, or the other thing I'm thinking is like, so we're talking about how like there's these tropes in TV shows and movies where someone can be like this edgelord, and I think a lot of stuff in TV and movies don't work in TTRPGs. What other medium do you think is most similar that you could play out in a TTRPG, if not like movie or whatever? So you can do either one. You can either call yourself out, or say TTRPGs. A TTRPG is not like a show. A TTRPG is like, you know, whatever other thing. Well, I'll give you a second to think about that. And I'll say some other stuff that I have coming up. If you are new here, I do streams like this over the table once a month. I also do one-shots in a bunch of different systems. Those are usually 1 to 2 a month. I'll do those. Next month, I don't really have a lot of TTRPG stuff because I'm getting ready to run a series, which I do every so often, that is going to be it's called Harpies, and it is a Glee inspired game using Monster Hearts as a system. So it's Glee,
That
but
rocks.
it's Glee, but people are werewolves and stuff. So I'm getting ready for that because I'm producing and GMing that. So I don't have that much next month. In September, that'll start. The cast is really good. I'm really excited for it. But apart from that, I stream Mondays and Fridays on this channel playing. I have been playing Blueprints. I think I'm going to play Date Everything. Next week, I'm probably not going to stream because I'm getting my wisdom teeth out. So don't look for
My
me next week.
condolences.
I'm probably going to be laying in bed. But after that, that's what I'll be doing. So that's maybe enough vamping for the two of you to have an answer to this question. So I will throw it over to you, Rue. The answer to the question, and then also other stuff you got going on, plugs, anything like that.
Yeah. So again, I'm Rue. My pronouns are she, her. You can find me on Blue Sky and a few other places. Tumblr, I think I have the same name, is usually Cherry Drop or Cherry Drop Rue. If you go to my card that's linked in the chat, has everything linked to it. I'm like, you can find me anywhere. Disperse.
Yeah.
I was gonna say my edgiest character, but it's not super interesting. But I was trying to think of like, oh, what is TTRPG like that is not like TV? I want to say wrestling, like AEW, WWE. I know is the more popular, but I watch AEW, and it has a lot of similarities. Either that, or just I have a lot of friends who are TTRPGers who also really love wrestling, and so we have forced a connection to the two. But just the idea of like a lot of wrestling takes these ideas of like people are face cards, you know, heels. They'll switch places, they'll have storylines and backstories that they're kind of putting together and interacting with different people, and they'll like a lot of it is so based on like what makes an interesting story. Like, oh, if this character becoming like this is interesting, then that's interesting to do. If this person being an asshole is interesting, then they'll keep doing it. Like heel characters are so kind of vital to it that like you need a character that everyone's gonna be like, boo, we hate you, who comes out in the ring and is like, wow, LA sucks or whatever. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Like there are like I watch with some friends every Wednesday, and there are characters that we're just like, we like cheer when they're like, woo, New York, what a shit town. And it's like you wait for them to like insult your thing. They're like going into the audience and like, you know, like yelling at a kid or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
and like the kid is just like, yeah, you know, yeah, yell at me. They're like
Amazing.
taking people's drinks, and it's like that's what people are expecting out of this character, because then it's satisfying to see like the guy that everyone like knows their theme song and like the whole audience is singing it or whatever, and when they beat them you're like, yeah, we all did something tonight. You did the real thing, but
we were
all
cheering.
did something. Yeah, and it's just like the art kind of the choreography of like the wrestling, especially watching with folks who really a lot of the people I watch with have been watching wrestling for a long time or know a lot of like kind of the ins and outs. So they'll talk a lot about, different things that are happening, and they're like, yeah, that part, like it was clear that they were like protecting the head of the other person even though they were like attacking each other. Or like they're doing things to like make sure that they're not, even though something looks like ridiculous, like you're like, oh my god, they threw a chair at their head. Like they're doing it in a way that like doesn't, give them a concussion.
Yeah.
So yeah, like just I think the real like dedication to the story over being like, I've got to be the hero. Like there have been, people who are like, they were like the fun, cute character, and then they're like, now I'm the bad guy now. I spit in people's faces and like,
yell at kids.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You, Cody.
Grant, what about you? What else do you have going on, and what's your answer to either question?
Hey, I'm Grant. Like I mentioned, I run the podcast Game Master Monday. If you like a lot of different one-shots and a podcast with a crazy back catalog that boldly says, hey, you can start anywhere, that's us. just pick the game that sounds fun to you. We're a variety show. We're a short story anthology. We're comedy, horror, drama, horny sometimes. It happens. We got lots of flavors for lots of folks over at Game Master Monday. And if you're more of a live stream person, like I said, we do a new mini series every month of the guest Game Master, running the series of their dreams. And we're currently doing a little show called Castaway that is based on Survivor, but you're allowed to die. Our current season is called Castaway the Desert. We're about halfway through, and we are raising funds for the ACLU because I don't know if you've noticed, but things in America here are a little borked. So we're trying to fight back as much as we can, and your donations can help or hurt the castaways depending on how freaky you feel. And we do weekly giveaways. We've given away dice bags and dice sets and physical games and digital games, and we're nuts this season. So come check us out at twitch.tv/Game Master Monday every Wednesday night, and then next day on YouTube. I'll take the other question since I don't have a better comparison than wrestling because that was the right answer. Made me think about the Undertaker. Anyway, the cringiest character I've ever played was probably very recently. I did a live stream with Diversity Saves. That was being GM'd by Kendo or Kendrick over from Tales Yet Told. And we were playing a game called A Pig at a Wedding. And the whole basis of that game is you are a group of friends who have been in some way wronged by the wedding party, and you plan to crash it by bringing a pig to a wedding.
Amazing.
Kendo put it in space. The marriage party was welcoming new people into a polycule.
Whoa.
That's so good.
and we were given full permission to kind of play assholes. So I went with one of my favorite tropes to lean on, which is guy who's kind of problematic and kind of an idiot. But is nice occasionally. So I just like to play empty-headed dudes. And I guess that was the one where I didn't go like full edge or anything, but there was clearly something wrong with this dude. Just like his brain wasn't firing on all synapses. I played a 3-armed, 3-legged man named Dodge Monitor. And he was wronged because he was dating this time alien for a long time, and then right before the wedding they broke up, and he's pretty sure it's the polycule's fault for talking her into breaking up with him, despite his many red flags. So he's introduced to the crew by saying, "Hey, it's me. I just parked in the handicap spot. I'm taking an extra gift bag. I'm kind of just walking around like I'm God's gift to Earth."
Yeah.
There's a great flashback scene where I get to come home to my apartment and talk to the girlfriend, and Kendrick's playing them, where you just clearly see that I'm not pulling my weight. So like, you know, it was very much so a character that was like designed that way on purpose, and is like everyone's in on the joke and egging it on, and clearly like, you know, being mean to my character because he deserves it. I think one of the other player characters like, "I don't think you deserve to be happy, man." And I was like, "Yeah, you're probably right."
I love that.
That's probably the closest
incredible.
I've gotten to full cringe. We'll see what happens, because I'm making another character for a stream on August 8th on Jocelyn Tipsy Tiger's channel, and I'm playing a greaser wizard, so we'll see what happens there.
That's awesome. Okay, we are gonna raid somebody. I'm gonna raid my friend Nichols. So let me see. How's the raid message coming in?
Oh, can I read aloud one thing in chat?
Yes,
Dinoberry Jam from Dinoberry Press. Y'all should check that out. Said, "I'm realizing now that Edgelord is an art form," and I truly, yeah. The first story, I was like, you know, the more insulting thing about this is that Edgelord really bad. Like,
yeah,
doing
I think that's the core of this whole thing, right? Like,
Amazing.
there's very clearly a way to do it, like in a fun, funny, or even interesting way, especially if like you have a clear end goal in mind. And some people are just doing it for the fuck of doing it, and that's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. For people who haven't been a part of Raid before, there's 2 messages in chat right now. If you are a subscriber, you can copy and paste the first message because the emotes will work for you. If you're not a subscriber, you can copy and paste the second message because those emotes will work for you. We're gonna raid my friend Nichols. She's doing, I think, in the middle of like a 10-hour, 12-hour stream.
Damn.
Yeah. Playing Disney Dreamlight Valley. I will say really quick before I do the raid and before I go to the end screen, I'll answer both questions and I won't elaborate on either. 1, TTRPGs are like board games, and 2, the edgiest character that I ever played was in a game of For One Night Only, which is a Cats the Musical TTRPG, and I played I played the capitalist cat. Yes, yeah. I played the capitalist cat, and my name was Bustopher Jones, and that's probably the edgiest character that I've played.
I love playing a capitalist. Rich idiot is another trope I lean on a lot.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a fun one. But thank you both so much for coming on the stream, and thanks everybody in chat for watching, and yeah, we're gonna go hit up Nichols to say hi to her in just a second. Do you want to say goodbye to chat and goodbye to the YouTube VOD?
Bye, Chad. Goodbye, Bye. Bot. I love you.
Bye.
All right, we're on.